I'm back. I'm back. I'm back because I say that because I've been out of everything basically for a while. Especially YouTube. Nothing on YouTube could interest me. All of the stuff that I used to watch and that I thought was even remotely funny or entertaining, nothing could capture my interest long enough to watch, and I thought that was a bit weird. So and I didn't have any inspiration to make any video either, and just wondering what to do with this channel. I've seen many people making videos go through the same thing, right? So doesn't and nobody ever has anything interesting to say about this thing. So do you stop? Do you continue? And today I felt like making a video. I've been watching some more YouTube again. And some of the gaming stuff, and also non-gaming stuff. For some reason, I've been watching a lot of Death Valley camping and hiking stuff. Now, I live so far away from that place that the chance of me actually going there to visit or hike are remote. Improbable, not impossible. I've been to national parks in the United States before, and the nature is stunning over there. But I've been following some of these like missing hiker stories. You know, people who go into a national park and never return, and then there's other people like search and rescue. Experienced people who go in and look for them, and which means basically going in there and walking around and take a lot of pictures, and I find that interesting. So I've been watching a lot of that. It's not gaming related, but still, I really like that, and I like the mystery part of it, and I just go into a mode where I collect as much data as I can, being like the armchair search and rescue official there, and I've also done that for maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. The Dyatlov Pass incident back in the 1960s in Russia. Super interesting story. And interesting because you can never find out what actually happened. 9 people got killed in a very mysterious way, and nobody knows why and how. And the same with the story that I've been looking into. Is like a German family who went into Death Valley, made some wrong decisions, and their day out, which hundreds of thousands of people do. And have done and will do, but their day out in the valley ended in death. And they were found like months. No, they were, they went missing, and then months later, like 3 months later, people started looking, which to me is like weird. And there's a lot of search effort, like goes in for a while, and then it stops, and then people just stay missing, and then 13 years later someone has a bright idea and say, let's look in this place, and they find some bones. Makes you wonder what happened to these people. So that's been on my mind. It's not gaming related, but this is a vlog anyway now, so if you're interested you can stay. If you're not, then you go on to watch gamers who have leaky roofs or and all that, because I did watch that, I did follow it for a bit. Metal Jesus Rocks and his thing, and then John Hancock and his leaky roof. John Hancock handled it a little bit better, I thought. But it's this weird alarmist thinking. He actually said, "Thank God my family is safe." And then he showed what was going on. It's a couple of drops of water coming into his roof. Thank God my family is safe. I don't see how the two are related. Anyway. The other thing, NASA's given up on Opportunity Rover. You must have heard that by now. If not, then it may be a surprise. In June last year, a big dust storm came up on Mars. It was not the first time that it happened, but this time the rover went into power fault mode, which means that it cannot charge its batteries from the sun. Basically, it shuts down and it tries to keep the instrumentation warm. It has some nuclear-powered batteries on board that can last for a long time. And NASA tried to contact the rover for a long time, and just recently, and with recently I mean like a few weeks ago, NASA just pulled the plug and said, "Okay, we're declaring it dead. It's not coming back." So there's a rover up there. It was planned to live for 90 days. It worked for 14 and a half years. It traveled only 28 miles, but it sounds like in 14 and a half years you can like travel around the planet a couple of times, but it goes so slowly that 28 miles is quite a feat. And they did a lot of research looking at the stones and the features and the sand and the dust, and I think it's interesting, but what can you learn? And they've seen evidence of water having been on Mars, liquid water. And I'm not schooled enough to know if that is the only conclusion that they were able to draw from that whole thing. Still, there's equipment up there, and I think we should get it back, or at least visit it at some point. So, how's everybody been? Weirdly enough, I did not this whole Manchester visit to the arcade club fell right into my blind spot, and I know a couple of people who went there, but I didn't see a lot of video uploads on YouTube about what happened. So I didn't watch anything of it, but I trust it was a great time. I mean, Raz went up there, and I don't think I saw Raz's video on the. He must have made one. Right, Raz? Gaming related. Let's talk about gaming related stuff. I've bought a couple of things, but I can't remember them all. I think I did buy the final missing DLC for Sniper Elite 4, which is Hunting for Hitler. I haven't played it yet, but that's because I'm also playing. Oh yeah. I mean that is the last of the DLC that I didn't have. It wasn't expensive at all, but I played through all of it, and I played through Sniper Elite 4 to the point where the only thing left is like realism mode, which funnily enough makes it more like Arma 3, but it scared the shit out of me. So it's funny how a game, when I go in Arma 3, and I've spent like almost 400 hours in Arma 3, and I've gotten to a point where I'm no longer bad. You know, I know there are people, because I see them online and I see them on the game, see them on YouTube, that are way better than I am. But I learn. I'm getting there. And it's funny how one game can have a mechanic and I'm perfectly comfortable with it. And you take that same mechanic and put it in another game and I'm completely lost. And the trick is to just in your mind think, oh, this is like Arma 3. And then all of a sudden you're doing better. You know, there are factors that influence your gameplay. Like this game. My PlayStation 4 is an Uncharted themed one, and I bought it, I think, with or at the same time that I bought Uncharted 4, which I loved. It's nothing to do with Arma 3. It's basically just a movie, you know, that you play a part in. I like it. I liked it a lot, but I was berated for the fact that I played number 4 first. Before playing any of the previous games. So I had this, and this is the Nathan Drake collection. So this is parts 1, 2, and 3, which also appeared on the PlayStation 3, at least the first ones, maybe not 3, I don't know. And I'm playing through Uncharted 1. Now, Uncharted 1 is a lot different from Uncharted 4, because Uncharted 1 is basically going from one location to the next and fighting off waves of enemies. And Uncharted 4 was a lot more puzzling. Where do I go now? How do I jump this? And, you know, that there were scenes in cars that were shooty, and there were, you know, there's some fighting and shooting scenes which are interesting enough. But they weren't that. This is the kind of a game that I play on easy mode because of that lack of switching to armor mode in my own head. So this game, loads of enemies, and I'm playing it on easy mode, and they're kicking my ass, and I run out of ammo, and I don't know what to do, and I have to play the scene a couple of times. I don't know. It's I'm enjoying it, but it's weird that I can't get into armor mode, which would help me, I think, because I've been known to shoot people on armor. I've been known to shoot team members, but also enemies and AI, and some AI is really tricky. Sometimes it's hard to see the difference between AI and people. Now, I'll tell the PC story first. I'm largely a PC gamer, right? I bought a new motherboard in 2015. It had an AMD FX 4100 processor. I put in some memory. Along the way, I upgraded my graphics card to an NVIDIA 970, a GTX 970, which is still pretty good. And I've always been happy with how it performs. It doesn't perform top end, but it performs well enough. The problem was, though, that my hard disk, the original system disk, was an old drive. It was a very slow drive, so it would take like easily 10 to 15 minutes to start my PC. So I decided to, following Evo Haler's example, to buy an SSD drive because they are much quicker. I'm going to tell it's a technical story, but I'm going to tell it anyway because hopefully someone will listen to it and think, oh, it's thanks for helping me make the same mistake. I made a mistake. What I could have done is, hard drives used to come with an IDE interface, the ribbon cables, right? Then, which is parallel ATA. Then they moved to serial ATA. SATA, yeah, which is quicker, and then they invented a next generation form factor in the shape of an M.2 connector, which is just a different kind of connector. And there are two kinds. There's a B key and an M key, just slightly different form. Says nothing about the interface though. So I go out and buy myself an M.2 drive, a Crucial MX500 basically SSD drive, right? And I think I'm doing the right thing here. But my main board doesn't have an M.2 connector. So what I do is I buy a little like adapter board that you plug into your main board, and you plug the M.2 drive into that, and voila, you have your drive. So I buy some kit, and I try to plug it into my old motherboard, but it turns out that the little adapter board is PCI Express and not PCI. That PCI is old. PCI Express is probably what you have your graphics card plugged into. Thinking I had an extra PCI Express slot on my main board, I thought it's fine. I can show you. This is my old board, right? Basically, this is my old motherboard. This is the memory. This is where the CPU was, and these are these light blue ones. Can you see them? The light blue ones are PCI slots. This is a PCI Express slot, and I thought I had two of those. The little board that I bought to stick it in was a PCI Express one. Didn't fit. So you know what I did? I bought myself a new motherboard. The ASRock 970 Pro 3 Release 2 board. Now this has an AM3 Plus socket matching the one on the other one because I had to be able to plug my CPU into that. And this new board has two PCI Express slots. So I thought, I can stick my little PCI Express adapter board into that. So I did that. I bought that. I installed it. I took off the cooler off my old CPU, which was, it's very funny. I took off the cooler, which was this little unit, and took out the CPU. I cleaned it all up with some isopropyl alcohol. Then plugged it into the new motherboard. I had this big ass Ryzen level cooler unit, which I got from Mark. Thanks, Mark. And I thought, why not put that on? So I had some cooling paste stuff, and I put that on, and I put the cooler on, and I put the memory in, and I had to jury rig the control panel for my case because it had a 20-pin connector. Basically, it's the on and off button you want to have work, and my new board had a 10-pin connector, so I had to rig that. It worked. It booted. No, it didn't boot. It turned on. The end of the story, I couldn't get it to work. Right? It wouldn't work. I made a little USB boot drive. Oh, there's so much to know. There's so much. I've learned so much. My old motherboard had a BIOS, right? Remember BIOS? That's the thing that when you turn the computer on, it looks at your boot drives. It reads the master boot record. That piece of software then goes on to boot your operating system. Do you know what? When you want this new M.2 SSD drive technology to boot your computer, BIOS can't do it. Because it needs EFI or UEFI which is the next generation of BIOS. I didn't know this. It got so complicated. In the end, I figured out that the little M2 drive that I bought was an SSD interface. Because there's two kinds. You can get the PC, the NVMe, also AHCI, Advanced Host Controller Interface, and the SATA interface. Right? They both look exactly the same. They both have the M2 connector. One usually has the B key format with one notch in the M2 connector. Mine had an M key with two notches in the SSD interface. My little adapter board was only for NVMe or AHCI. So it couldn't boot. It couldn't boot off that. So I ended up buying another adapter board, which is basically a SATA converter, which converts the SATA interface M2 form factor to the regular SATA interface. But it limits the speed, right? Because the NVMe or AHCI interface was invented to get over the speed limitations of the SATA interface. Mamma mia! And you can go on the internet and you can read all the answers to the specific questions that other people have, and you won't notice that you're doing the wrong thing. I did the wrong thing. I solved it though. I mean, in the end, I had to call in Mark's help, who was gracious enough to sit on my couch for 2 hours and help me think through this. And he said, why don't you remove this little adapter board and see if it boots with that, because the new BIOS was doing weird things. And that worked. That worked. Now, I'm booting off my SATA. This is turning out to be a long story. You still interested? Still here? Jesus. I'm booting off my SATA interface using my UEFI BIOS. And to be honest, I don't really know whether my current disk drive is master boot record or GPT. Because if you want, here and here we go, here's a little nugget of knowledge that you're going to need. If you want to boot the fastest way off of an M2 drive, make sure you have the NVMe or AHCI one. Set your UEFI BIOS to AHCI mode. Connect it to your motherboard, either through an M2 connector if you have that, or a little riser board, a little adapter board that does the conversion for you. Then make sure that NVMe drive does not have a master boot record, but a GPT. A GPT is a GUID partition table. Yeah. It's a different kind of partition table. So the UEFI BIOS knows how to talk to that to make the thing boot. It'll work as a data drive, but for booting you need that. It's super complicated. I've learned a lot. I was so stressed out. It wasn't late until I was finished, but I was very happy that it worked. But I was so drained. I was so tired the next day. Can't believe it. I'm very happy now. I mean, my system boots in like no time. No time. Even with the SATA interface, the speed limited SATA interface, no time. Seconds. And I don't even have fast boot on. I could do that as well. So I did that, and it's gotten me to a point where I now can... I'm going to get a new processor. My FX 4100 processor was really a budget processor. It has very poor multi-core performance. It has very limited single-core performance, and any upgrade I can get there is going to help me immensely in playing games. And I'm not done, because the PC thing, okay, that was a long and boring story, but hopefully, if you have any questions about that, if you want to upgrade, if you have questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. My stick, that's more interesting. Here's where I am with the stick. Right, buttons working. My little lasered logo, which I'm really proud of. This board is very unique now, so I don't want to have to do it again. The insides, I've noticed a little problem. I mean, this is the way that I intended my first version. These joysticks have 5-pin connectors. And my goal was to make this like a JAMA, connect this to a JAMA harness. But I'll show you a problem. This is a JAMA harness. So this is the actual JAMA edge connector, and it's got all the leads for the up, down, left, right, buttons, coins, whatever. Everything is sound, power, everything is on there. So, I can show you that this wire here, that I'm going to hold up briefly. This wire here is player 1 up. And as you can see, the connector is meant to hook up to a leaf spring connector. Like it's a little flat piece of metal that you slide this over. My joystick has a 5-pin connector, so this is not compatible. Now, I called the people where I got this harness and asked them, how do I get from the 5-pin connector on the joystick to that? And they basically said, well, you'll have to solder something together. Now, I'm thinking, cheap Chinese crap. This is cheap Chinese crap. It's very cheap. And the friggin' 5-pin connector, But I figured out that Sanwa, the people that make like the official stuff that's supposed to be really good, they have a series with the 5-pin connector as well. So these Chinese copy artists copied the 5-pin connector off them. So if I bought like a €30 joystick from Sanwa, I would have had the same problem. So I'm not sure how that is solved. And my idea now is to buy different. For the buttons, there's no problem, but to buy a different joystick, which has like a switch and one of those metal plates for each direction, and I can just make it it'll be permanently JAMA. And I wanted to be able to switch. So if any of you have an idea how I can combine connecting the 5-pin connector and the JAMA connector, then please inform me, because I don't know. But I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out somehow, but I need someone with experience in soldering and all that. So I'm going to end this video. I'm going to play some Elite. It's my Friday. It's my day off. I spent time installing my video rendering stuff, and everything is up and running, so I should be able to upload this video as normal. And I hope you've enjoyed it. Talk to me in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.